What are you talking about? I'm totally filming this on a different day than I did my last video. I'm wearing a different hat. So you might remember on Saturday, if you're subscribed to the channel, which you should be, so hit that subscribe button, we talked about the potential for more Xbox games to be coming to the Nintendo Switch in 2024. A story was done by Nate the Hate on the Nate the Hate podcast, saying that he had heard that a large Xbox exclusive title, as far as consoles was concerned, would be coming to a different platform in 2024. It was a game that was highly rated as well and very highly regarded. So most people, myself included, automatically thought, well, it's probably going to be the Nintendo Switch. Microsoft tends to work with Nintendo more so than they do with PlayStation, so it seemed to make the most sense. But then you got to kind of think about, well, what's the game itself going to be? You know, what game sort of meets that metric as a very highly rated game for the Xbox? I kind of came up to the conclusion that it was probably Hi-Fi Rush if I had to be, you know, just objective about the situation, but that was just me sort of speculating. Well, we have more information on the potential for Hi-Fi Rush to be coming to the Nintendo Switch and maybe the PlayStation as well. It seems like Xbox actually isn't done with bringing games over to other platforms, because now we have a new slew of rumors coming out about another game getting a release potentially on the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5 as well. That is an exclusive Xbox console game. What does this mean? What does this mean for the future of Xbox? Let's just hop straight into it, man. Hit subscribe if you are new. So here's why people are talking about Hi-Fi Rush potentially coming to the Switch and the PlayStation 5 since that Nate the Hate episode. This was found on the classifications board for Australia. Now, when you first look at it, like, okay, Project 20022A, like Project 2022, you know, what does that mean? It's a computer game. There's not a lot of information about it, but when you scroll down, you could see, oh, Shinji Mikami, ZeniMax Media. Okay, well, that lines up with Hi-Fi Rush. But what's interesting is when you keep scrolling down, you can see that Hi-Fi Rush is classified as other versions of this game, which of course has already come out. When you look at the games or the systems that it's going to be on, that's where things kind of get a little bit murky. PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, but online, mobile, or arcade, like, what is that all about? And then you have the classification date. It's dating back to December of 2022. So is this actually a viable update on Hi-Fi Rush coming to the Switch? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this is just an old classification, maybe even an incorrect classification, and that's why they have Hi-Fi Rush linked in the other versions of this. But I do find it interesting that this even exists. Like, yes, it is older, but it still exists. It hasn't been removed. And if it's been sitting there since 2022, it's kind of like, well, why? I still think Hi-Fi Rush is going to come to the Switch, but it seems like there is that potential now for it to come to PlayStation as well. So that's kind of the update about Hi-Fi Rush. But like I said, we've been getting a lot of information from different people within the video game industry that this is not just going to be like a one and done thing for Xbox. It seems like Xbox is adamant about putting more titles that are Xbox console exclusives onto things like the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5. And the new game that Jeff Grubb and Steven Totillo, I'm not quite sure how to say it, have brought up is Sea of Thieves. Now, Sea of Thieves, you know, I have an interesting history with Sea of Thieves. Wasn't a fan of it at first, didn't really care for the game. Made a little one-liner in a video saying I didn't think the game was going to be very successful, which rare than used in a production video of Sea of Thieves. Hey, I was wrong on that, because I've actually played Sea of Thieves within the past couple of months with Spawnwave and Nate the Hate and MVG, and I liked it. You know, I liked what they had built. It was just that on day one, it was not a game that really had a lot of content. You couldn't really do a lot of things, but the completed, or the more so completed build of this game that we have now, obviously there's been tons of updates. They've added in so much different things that you can do within the game. It's actually pretty fun. I actually quite enjoy the game. Well, Grubb and Steven have heard that this game is going to be coming to potentially the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5. Now, people are quick to say, well, I don't think it'll come to the Switch because, you know, Sea of Thieves, it's kind of a bigger game. But really, when you look at Sea of Thieves, just from a graphical perspective, It's really not that crazy. You know, it uses a sort of unique art style. It's kind of a bit cartoony. And yeah, you might have some loading when you're out on your ship if you get out too far from an area that you're in. But I mean, this game ran on the Xbox One VCR, which, you know, that wasn't exactly the strongest system in the world. This was originally an Xbox One game that has been enhanced for the Xbox Series X and stuff like that. So I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for this game to run decently on the Nintendo Switch. The PlayStation 5 is very interesting because, like I said at the start, usually when you think of Microsoft doing business with other companies, it's Nintendo. You know, you don't really see them hitting up PlayStation, but if they're going to start utilizing PlayStation for some of their first party games, it's kind of like, well, what's the direction of Microsoft here? Because we've talked about the potential for them to go third party, get out of the hardware business, because it seems like they don't really like the hardware business. They seem more focused on things like Game Pass and games and players playing their games, not even necessarily buying the games, but players experiencing the games more so than, oh, we sold this many consoles in this quarter and in this year or something like that. So what better way to get more people to play your games than to, of course, put them on other platforms that are selling at a higher rate than yours are. You got to remember, Microsoft is a business at the end of the day. They want to see profits. They want to make money on this stuff. And if there's a division that can be sort of removed, that being the hardware division, in order to put a stronger focus on the software side of things, which would sell good on other platforms, like, it's very interesting. But then you could say, well, maybe they keep the hardware around for Game Pass and it's essentially a Game Pass system, but you can also buy these games on other platforms. Like, Call of Duty isn't going to disappear off of PlayStation. Like, it's going to be on there because they want to sell that game to you. But if you happen to have Game Pass, you can also get it on there too. It's definitely very interesting, their sort of position and how they're positioning themselves as a company. But from what I've heard about this is just like the tip of the iceberg. Okay, these games that are being discussed, your Hi-Fi Rushes, your Sea of Thieves, you know, these games are kind of the tip of the iceberg about what Xbox is kind of planning potentially on doing on other platforms in 2024 and beyond. From some things I've heard, it seems like I said, this is just the start, and there's going to be games coming to other platforms that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see. I don't have game titles in mind. I'll let you run with your imagination with that. That is just what I was told about this situation. But seeing it unfold kind of in real time, like, man, you know, if you're a diehard Xbox person, you know, I am the king of Xbox YouTube, but I understand there are other Xbox YouTubers out there. You kind of got to wonder about the future. Like, what is the future of the company? Like, there's nothing wrong with being a software first company and a hardware company second, or getting out of the hardware industry. Like, look at Sega. Like, everyone still loves Sega. Like, if anything, we wish that they still made consoles sometimes. So it's not like necessarily an admission of defeat. It's more so of understanding your financial situation and understanding what's working for you and what's not working for you. And clearly, Game Pass seems to be something they like. It's sustainable, are buying all these companies and having them make games exclusively for your console. Is that sustainable if you're not selling consoles? Like, we don't really know because we're still in the infancy stages of this. But it seems like Microsoft might be planning a little bit further ahead than we initially realized. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised if there's more sort of stories that come out about this stuff, and there's more potentially announcements that we end up seeing about Microsoft working with their quote unquote competition, because it just seems like the move that they are willing to make in order to try something different. And you can't really say it's going to work or it's not going to work because we haven't seen a company really try it. Sega, what didn't really try it, they were forced into it. Yeah, let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack here with this. What games do you think could be beyond there? Could you see something like Sea of Thieves on the PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch? Do you think Hi-Fi Rush is going to be coming to the system as well? Do you think this ratings board in Australia knows what they're talking about? Or is this just an old listing that people are trying to connect the dots to? And what Xbox games would you like to see on other platforms? Obviously, They have quite a large pedigree of companies under their division right now and under their control, essentially. So what would you like to see, you know, come out for other systems? You know, you got to wonder, well, is, you know, the next Elder Scrolls going to be, you know, is that just going to be on Xbox? Like, you would think that that's the move, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Like I said at the start, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 500K. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.